Is there room for Hirsch by the table?
He doresh no mishmeh Beautiful.
All right, Chevra. No, that was just dinner. That was just dinner music. That comes. This will come later, Amir Hashem. Chevra, it's incredible schos Baruch Hashem to be here. You can tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do this avoda. You feel how the weather has changed, just in 2 hours. 2 hours, mamish. Beautiful. A little hischatshus in the world is coming in. So Baruch Hashem will say incredible schos to continue our Heilige Limud in the Piaget. Now, first, a thank you to Reb Tzvi for once again the beautiful spread. You know, they used to say about Reb Shayla of Kiristir, that on Machashava he would serve Malava Malka, and he would give bilkalach, he would give rolls, and the Rebbe used to give out the rolls from a bag. No one else but the Rebbe was allowed to put their hand in the bag. And they say one of the miracles of Kiristir is that the Rebbe never ran out of bilkalach. There was no people would show up at the last minute. I feel that Reb Tzvi must be originally from Kiristir. Comes in with a box, and then this comes out, and then that comes out, and this comes out. I mean, here it's all finished, but I'm saying, not yet, Amir Hashem. But Reb Tzvi, thank you. Such a beautiful avoda. Steve, who are our sponsors this week? Baruch Meir Dubin. And Shua Pornish, Shkach, I will say for the bourbon and scotch sponsor, Shkach and Shkach to Reb Tzvi. It's Reb Steve, who is our Mashka Gabai. So it's not an easy job. I'm calling him a Gabai. He has to be a Gabai. Yeah, that's done. That never lasts. So I'll say, let's continue. So we're continuing tonight. And a welcome to all the new Chavra who are joining us here tonight as we continue in our beautiful journey in the Piaget. Now, we are picking up on page 12. Page 12. So again, I will say, if anyone needs handouts, there are handouts over here. Good. There also will say, if anyone still wants a sefer, there's a box behind Adam David. There are still sperm available for purchase as well. They're yours. I think we're down to the last couple. So we'll say, so remember again, we're picking up a little bit in the middle of a section. We started this section yesterday. The Piagetzna, last week, the Piagetzna called this, and we'll say we dedicate our learning in the Zechusava Refuah Shalema for Penina Rivka Bas Shendel Martel. We hope that who's having a procedure. B'shah Tova Matzlachas tomorrow, so we hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, everything should be with Mazel, and Emir Hashem she should have a complete and enduring refuah. So we'll say, so we began last week the section titled Seder Emtsai V'Yesod HaChevra. So remember again, the Piagetna has been teaching us over the last couple of weeks this concept of forming a Bnai Machashava Tova-9-22-22, a group of individuals who are singularly dedicated. Now, we learned last week what the avoda is. Up until now, we've been learning about who's in the chevra, who's out of the chevra, what the criteria are. Last week, the Piagetzna told us that what's the goal? The goal of the chevra is to create clarity of thought. That's the goal. Because ultimately, the greatest problem that the Jew has is not sin, is that sometimes we just go ahead. You see, where there's what does clarity of thought mean according to the Piagetzna? Clarity of thought means that I recognize that I am a son of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I recognize that I constantly live in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the Balatanya called this God awareness. And when a person lives with constant God awareness, I am Lifnei Hashem. It shapes everything in my life. It shapes how I talk. It shapes how I dress. It shapes how I behave. It shapes how I conduct myself. It shapes how I conduct my personal life, my business life. When I recognize, it says the Piagetzna, the greatest avera, the greatest mistake that we make is that at the end of the day, like Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Vatishkach kel mecholaleka," we forget the Ribono Shel Olam. And the Piagetzna said, that's why I'm calling this Chaburah Bnei Machashava Tova. The goal of being part of this Chaburah is to cultivate not just positive thoughts. Machashava Tova in this context means a constant and ongoing and uninterrupted awareness of the Ribono Shel Olam. So with that, take a look. We're picking up on Os Gimel, page 12. Os Gimel, page 12. Right to the Piagetzna. Shichlul shatuach v'chizok hamachshava zehu yisod chaverasenu ve'ikar ha'emtzai sha'al yodu nuchal iskasher ba'avoda. So we'll say, so this is actually shichlul shatuach means expansive understanding, v'chizok hamachshava, and the strengthening of thought. This is zehu yisod chaverasenu. This is what our Chaburah is all about. And I will say, all the Piagetzna told us was about creating a clarity of mind, God awareness. What that means, what that really means, and how you acquire that, the Piaget is going to teach us. But this is the ikar we're striving to accomplish. Sha'al yada nuchal hiskasher ba'avoda. Because I will say, when there's clarity of mind, so I will say, if you think about it, what's it? Give our task like, what's our greatest struggle? When I think about it contemporarily, what's our greatest struggle? I'm sorry? Apathy. Right? It's apathy. In other words, it's interesting. It's not observance, because observance isn't a... In other words, people may struggle personally with observance, but as a Jew, I don't have to struggle to observe my religion. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, we live in a country, even though we're in Galus, we live here where I could be an observant Jew and do anything. So struggle is not observance. The struggle is not access. Because it used to be, if you didn't have a yeshiva education, you couldn't learn anything. Now you could have zero education and learn everything. So total access, no barricades or obstacles to observance. So what's the challenge? The challenge is a sense of apathy. See, I go through the motions. I do what I'm supposed to do. Check the box. Shabbos, check. Tefillah, check. Tefillin, check. I check all the boxes. But I feel nothing. Says the Piagetz, do you know why I feel nothing? Because I don't have clarity of thought. Because I don't have an awareness about whom I'm doing this avoda for, or how it serves as part of a relationship. So for me, it just becomes a series of behaviors that I do day in and day out, but it doesn't move the needle of my inspiration or of my connection. So the Piagetz says, when we reach this level of shichlo shatuach, like shichlo seichel, right, shatach, right, expansive understanding, chizuk machshava, strengthening of machshava tova, the Piagetz says, this is how sha'al yoda nucha liskasher ba'avoda. This is how we connect to our avodah. You both say, a machshava tova, clarity of thought, God awareness, it doesn't necessarily cause you to do more, but whatever it is that I'm already doing has greater, enhanced, and amplified meaning. He goes, I'm sorry? You're on fire. Lo bebechinas, we'll say now, he goes back to the mashal he made before. Lo bebechinas bechara shivcha, asher achar harechaim, ele kiben shemagish es karvoso shel aver. Both remember again, the Piagetz made this mashal in the beginning of the Sefer. What's the difference between a ben and an eved? Right? A ben and an eved. Let's say again, the son of the king and the servant of the king. The truth is, they both serve the king. What's the difference? One's closer. Beautiful. Piagetz explained, the ben serves in close proximity. The eved serves at a distance. The Piagetz says, I don't want to be an eved. I'm not content with just serving Hashem from a distance. I want to serve Hashem with proximity, within proximity. And I want to understand, I want to appreciate the other thing that a son has that a servant doesn't have is everyday conversation. The king converses with his son. The king doesn't necessarily converse with his servant. Vihine. So we'll say, now listen to this. Here we go. This is incredible. Vihine. Kol ikar kushyas v'koved hamachshava shekash lo la'ish lechaska libli herat la'arfusa himi beisibos. So we'll say, so now, even though we haven't even fully defined the notion of God awareness, of clarity of thought, we know enough. Because also I want to point out, I think I said this last year, the Piagetz is not inventing this concept. Remember again, it's the first Ramah in Shulchan Aruch. What's the first Ramah in Shulchan Aruch? Right? The Shulchan Aruch says, Yisgaber Ka'ari. When you get up in the morning, get up like a lion. Also, we learned something interesting in Machashava this week. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, if you can't get up like a lion, at least get up like what? Like a man. If you can't get up like a lion, at least get up like a man. Don't be a little girl when you get out of bed, right? I don't think that's the way he meant it, but you understand, right? Get up like a man. So I'll say that's the mechaber. What does the Ramah say? The first Ramah Shulchan Aruch. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. I place Hashem before me at all times. That's the first Ramah. That's the first statement in halacha. So the Ramah comes. I want to point out this notion and the Baal Tanya. The Baal Tanya, Shlomo Zalman Liadi, is the opening page of Tanya. Most people get through the first page of Tanya. Then after that, it's downhill. Right? So amazingly enough, so what happens? That's the opening phrase of Tanya also. It's the opening part. God awareness. Baal Tanya says God awareness. Everything is about God awareness. So the Piagetz is not making this up. He's taking from earlier sources and saying, we have to be totally... See, here's the difference. When the Ramah quotes it, he quotes it as an idea, and then he moves on to halacha. Baal Tanya quotes it, he moves on. The Piagetz says, here's the problem. We quote it, and then we move on. You can't move on. That's the avoda. The avoda is Shivis Hashem L'Negdi Samid. The avoda is God awareness. It's not, that's a detail, let's move on to the halacha. That is it. That is everything. Because if I have that clarity of thought, if I have that God awareness, Everything flows from this. It says the Piazetzna. Why do we have such difficulty with it? Let's just say on a Pashat level. Each and every one of us knows that everything we do is in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We know it. Intellectually, I know it. But yet, why is it that I can't live it? Not yet, at least. Right? We're going to Amir Hashem. But why is it that sometimes I know it, but I don't live it? What's the pshat? What is it that takes away from the awareness? Look what the Rebbe writes. There are two reasons. Aleph, and we'll say, get ready for this. He'eder his orurus. So we'll say, so that phrase, by the way, he'eder his orurus means there is a lack of excitement, a lack of passion. We don't become passionate about anything. He'eder his orurus. He says, bein hislavu shel simcha, ubein shel shviras halev. We're not passionate when we're happy. We're not passionate when we're sad. The Piazetzna says that sometimes, this is what Zev was saying before, apathy. You see, we think apathy is a new thing. Apathy is not a new thing. The Piazetzna says, sometimes we're just so apathetic. Like nothing moves us. Happy things don't move us. Sad things don't move us. We're like vanilla. Just vanilla through life. Hadar his orus. A lack of awakening, a lack of passion. Bein hislavu shel simcha. Whether again it's excitement over simcha, bein shel shir slave, or what he calls it excitement, hislavos, by brokenheartedness. Ki b'chol sha'a she'ish yisrael mitar mislaiv. Because we'll say when a Jew is on fire, when a Jew is passionate about something, afilu b'ma'at his orus kivar machshavto yoser chazaka. You're supposed to listen to this. When I am passionate about something, what do I have? What do I have? I have clarity of thought. Rabbi say, by the way, we know this, right? You ever have a moment of incredible, like spiritual elation? Moment, right? We're coming up on days where Meretz Hashem are going to experience moments of incredible spiritual elation. What happens during those moments of inspiration? What happens? What happens? What happens? You feel great, but more than you feel great. What else? You feel aware. You feel aware, and the truth is, in those moments, like the entire world makes sense. Everything makes sense. I have clarity. I have that clarity. It says the Piazetzna. Because when you're passionate, passion awakens the Machashava. Passion awakens thought, which is interesting, right? Because passion is emotion, thought is cognition, but yet everything is intertwined. So it says the Piazetzna, something like it says, any time that a pure and holy Jew becomes passionate about something, I feel b'ma'at even just a little bit of isorus, a little bit of a passion, a little bit of an awakening. Kvar machshavto yoser chazaka, hi tahora ule'ela mitziyure gofo v'dimyonohi. Because we'll say, you see, in an unpassionate or in a dispassionate, a sleep state. So Rabbi say, so what happens? Come in, Menachem, come in. You're like Hillel by the skylight over there, right? Come on in. Come in, there's a chair. I'll talk quick. Come in. So,
this is the exciting part. No pressure.
So again, the Piazetzna goes on. The Piazetzna says, he says something amazing. He says, in the absence of passion, you want something to eat? Okay. We're just happy. Yeah, I know. So in the absence, in the absence of passion, the Piazetzna says, in the absence of hislavos, in the absence of passion, what is a person all about? A person is just all about their physicality. See, in the absence of being passionate or excited, hislavos about something, what's my life about? We'll say, when there's no passion about something, no excitement about something higher, what is life all about? What is life all about? Satisfaction of my physical desires, whatever they may be, whatever those physical desires are. Without any hislavos, without any spiritual awakening, without any spiritual passion, without any sense of being awakened in life, life just becomes a mundane pursuit of the physical. So we'll say, by the way, this is why on Yom Kippur we experience these moments of incredible spiritual elation. And in those moments, what happens? There's clarity of thought. There's God awareness. I'm not thinking about the physical. And everything in my life makes sense. It doesn't mean everything in my life is as it should be. But I have such a clarity of vision. But Rabbi say, listen to these words. What the Piazetzna writes. When my heart and my mind mitumtamim. Rabbi say, what's mitumtamim? So mitumtamim means, how would you translate that? Like mitumtam means like messed up, right? Messed up, right? When they're in disarray. Chasar Machashava ila she'ein gufnis. See, I will say, when my heart and my mind are closed off, the only thing I focus on are my physical needs. I focus on nothing lofty. I focus on nothing pure. I focus on nothing bigger than just the satisfaction of carnal desires. Ubioser, kishesh la'atzvus chasar shalom. Rabbi said the Piagetsta brings us in over. We're going to talk about this more. The Piagetsta says, what's even worse than timtum alev? What's even worse is atzvus, sadness. Because what happens when a person is in a state of sadness? Everything is shut down. She'ein zos shviras umeriras halev. Rak min heder v'timtum kimo she'isa b'shem harav ukimo she'margish ha'isha Yisraeli shebelel Yom Kippurim shelibo nishbar adarabba libo umocho psuchim, top of page 13. Shabbos, of course, the Piagetsta does point out there are different forms of sadness. There's Yom Kippur sadness. What's Yom Kippur sadness? Yom Kippur is an incredible day of simcha. What's Yom Kippur sadness? We've all experienced it. Yom Kippur sadness is the sadness of the recognition of a year that has not been maximized. And for some of us, it's the recognition of a life that has not been maximized. There's a sadness that comes with that, a profound sadness. But that type of sadness often opens me up to clarity of thought. That type of sadness often allows for islavos. Ubechol shana, ubechol hashana, shechas v'sholom hu ba'atzvos, nofel hu be'ein leiv u'be'ein machashava. But I will say sadness in general. In other words, sadness that's not rooted in holiness. We'll call it non-Yom Kippur sadness. The sadness of the rest of the year. What happens with that time of sadness? Ultimately, again, that closes off the heart. It closes off the mind. So that's number one. So that's number one. So the first thing the Piagetsta says is, so remember again, let's trace the progression. The Piagetsta told us that what's our ultimate goal? Right, our ultimate goal is Bnai Machashava Tova. Ultimately is clarity of thought. That's our ultimate goal. Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Summit. That's what we are trying to accomplish. Says the Piagetsta, why is it so complicated? What is so difficult about it? So issue number one, says the Piagetsta, is a lack of passion. There's just not enough passion in life. We're too parav. We're too vanilla. Right? At the end of the day, I think you're creating a wind tunnel over there, Zevi. Right? At the end of the day, the Piagetsta says that without passion, without a sense of passion, the moach is shut off, the leiv is shut off. That's number one. Number two, to say it differently, it's apathy. Apathy. When ultimately, again, there is apathy, then there can't be any clarity of thought. Next, va'od chisaron yeshbo. Furthermore, again, there's another chisaron. V'hu mum tiv'i she'ein lo bichlal machshava chazaka. I will say this is very interesting. Here the Piagetsta says there are also people who don't have a strong intellect. And I will say, now there's the second reason and the first reason is often the second reason is genetic. Right? He's describing over here someone, not everybody is an intellectual. Right? And not everybody, by the way, has intellectual processing capabilities. And not everybody necessarily has the ability to engage in this process of cognition that the Piagetsta is describing. So he says, a person just doesn't have a strong intellect. It's his teva, it's his nature. Kimo shenemar lebal seichel katan, chadash davar chachma, she'efshar lo mipnei mum tiv'i zeh sheichel katan. So I both say, in certain respects, if somebody doesn't have a strong intellect, like anything in life, you could try to explain concepts to them, and they won't get it. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they're not important. So I both say, there's always like this interesting dialectic we have, where on one hand, Yiddishkeit teaches us to believe that we can do anything, except the things that we can't. Right? In other words, that I am born with natural limitations. There are natural limitations that are there. So there are just some people, just like, again, we know that there are multiple intelligences, right? People learn in different ways. There are people who are kinesthetic learners, right? They learn through activity. There are people, ultimately, again, who are wonderful with, like, frontal lecturing. There are other people who, again, can't... And again, it's just different forms of intellect. So the Piagetsta just points out, it's important to recognize there are people who are just not intellectual. And that's not a chisaron. It's not a chisaron. It's just how they are. So for people, now again, to be clear, people who are not intellectual are not going to find a way out of this Chaburah, right? But the Piagetsta is saying, just understand, if I'm not an intellectual person, what we're describing over here seems foreign, because an intellectual person might be maybe more used to accessing things through their heart, not necessarily through their mind.
But if the goal is God awareness, a simple person could have their own version of God awareness.
Correct.
Or intellectual, and on the big continuum of things, really understanding about Hashem, we're all way at the...
There's going to be a sliding scale with this. Absolutely.
A person will never have clarity of thought if he's not intellectual?
No, it's not. Remember, the Piaget is pointing out what are the potential challenges. Challenges doesn't mean that it's not possible. Challenges just means they're challenges. So the same way that if I'm an apathetic person, that is a challenge to having clarity of thought. Does that mean I can't get there? Of course not. Another challenge is if a person's not intellectual. In other words, when a person's not intellectual, they're not used to accessing things through their Machashava. Perhaps they're more used to accessing things through emotion. A challenge, not impossible at all. He's just trying to outline all of the challenges. Umipnei, chisaron tivizeh, lo dai shegam b'shasis orus afshe machshavto misoreres, umischazakes, eina chazake kemo shetzricha liyos. So the Piaget's here is something interesting. Such a person, so I will say, I want to point out the Piaget's created an incredible, almost like model over here. And his model is that inspiration allows for intellectual clarity, allows for clarity of the mind, which is a very interesting combination that the truth is, I don't think you'll find outside of this sefer. Because normally, again, we look at inspiration as a function of emotion, clarity of thought as a function of the intellect. The Piaget says they're actually inextricably linked. And where there is inspiration, a person is open and ready and receptive to clarity of thought. So the Piaget says, even if a person is not an intellectual, Bipashtos, again, if there's inspiration, they'll be able to have those moments of clarity of thought. Now, their moments of clarity of thought may not be as strong or as intense as someone else's moments of clarity of thought. Alright, so we'll say, so skip a little bit. Kilomar, ish ba machshava chazaka. As Shabbos says, so here's the difference. So here's what the Piaget explains. The fundamental difference is whether you are an intellectual or not an intellectual. At the end of the day, you have the ability to access this clarity of thought. There is the ability to go ahead and have this. The person who is intellectual and used to utilizing his mind, he'll have an easier time with this process. The person who's not as intellectual will have a difficult time. We'll say there's another distinction between the intellectual and the non-intellectual. He says, Kilomar, ha'ish ba machshava chazaka, az b'shash misorer u'mislay machshavto mischazekes u'bara baroa machshavto u'b'nyon dimyon shal yisra b'nei avim. So let me tell you this piece outside, then we're going to go to Os Daled. Here's what the Piaget says also. See, I will say, if I have a koach hamachshava, what I can do is, you see, we will say, what's the goal? Let's take a step back. What's the goal?
Clarity.
Right? Clarity of thought. Right? Passion is the mechanism through which I get there. The goal is to be bnei machshava tova. I want to have clarity of thought. And what does clarity of thought mean? Again, Shvis Hashem Menegdi Summit. I'm in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll say, that is our singular goal. To build a life where I live with constant God awareness. Now, we'll say, now that we said that, is there any person who lives with constant God awareness? Bipashtos, no. So here the Piaget says something amazing. But if you're able to do this process right, even in moments when I'm uninspired, and perhaps don't feel in a state of God awareness, clarity of thought, I can still see in my mind's eye what clarity of thought and God awareness looks like. See, I both say, in life, sometimes I'm not where I need to be. But in those moments where I'm not where I need to be, the most important thing is what? To have a vision of where it is I need to be. Right? It's an incredibly so, especially as you go into Yamim Noraim. I know I'm not where I need to be in life. I know that. It's not even a shayla. It's not like I have to think about it. I know for sure I'm not where I need to be in life. Okay? But now do I have a vision of where I do need to be? Do I have that vision? So if I don't have the vision, I can't get there. So the Piaget says something absolutely... Some drink?
No, actually, it didn't work out well.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll be all right.
So the Piaget says something amazing. The Piaget writes that when a person cultivates their koach hamachshava, what that's able to do is that even in those moments where I don't have God awareness, at least I could see in my mind's eye what God awareness looks like. What God awareness looks like. Now he contrasts that with the person who maybe has a weaker intellect who can't imagine things that he's not experiencing. Can't imagine things, so I'll say an interesting distinction. But again, we'll leave that on the side for now. Point that we get ultimately again from Os Gimel is that although we know what our job is, what are the two things that ultimately sometimes hold us back from cultivating clarity of thought? Number one, apathy. Number two, sometimes our koach hamachshava is not strong enough. Now we're going to see how you could strengthen your machshava, intensify your machshava, because the goal is obviously to live life with God awareness, and in those moments where I don't have the awareness, at least have the image of what Shivisi Hashem means, to have the image of what God awareness looks like. Os Daled, we'll say it's too far, a few more minutes. Os Daled. Os Daled. Aval, so we'll listen to this, and this is beautiful. So here the Rebbe writes, Aval, Lama be'emes ein leish machshava chazaka. So the Piagetna says, that previous paragraph? That was kind of me giving the excuses that everyone uses. Let me tell you really why people don't have clarity of thought. Hello? Machshava einenu seichel. So I say, look at the Piagetna does. He does like a shtickle 180 over here. You see in Os Gimel, he's saying, you ask why people don't have clarity of thought. Okay, apathy, that one makes total sense. And then again, clarity of thought requires strong intellect. Not everyone has strong intellect. Says the Piagetna. Okay, now we're amongst the Chaburah. We're in the Chaburah, so we're all unified in our desire to grow. We all want to become Bnai Machashava Tova. So says the Piagetna, let's be real. Let's be real. Why don't we have Machashava Tova? He says it's not because of intellect or lack thereof. Why? He says, Halo Machashava einena seichel. Shene'emar alav she'ein lo moach v'seichel chad v'lo pilpulim v'chakiros. Now we'll say, listen to what the Piagetna says. Machshava has nothing to do with seichel. So we'll say, seichel is intellect. Seichel is intellect. Machshava literally translates as thought. For our purposes here, it really translates as awareness. Awareness is not part of intellect. It's not based on your intellectual prowess, your ability to make drichshas v'chakiras, right? Different analytical analyses. He says, Adrabah, rak be'emuna pshuta b'Hashem anu darshim ata. We'll say, look what just happened. You see, admit it, when you are reading Os Gimel, right, this sefer made you nervous, right? The Piagetna made you nervous, because what does it sound like? What does it sound like? It sounded like we were heading towards some type of elitist Chaburah. Right? So the intellectually challenged, right? You scored under a 1400 on your SATs, right? They still have SATs? They still have SATs, right? Yeah. Right? So again, right? Scored under a 14, sorry. You're not a merit this or a merit that. That's culture. So this is not for you. Really? First of all, the Piagetna is a chassid. And I will say, understand, Chassidus was created by the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh to combat that very ideology. Before the Baal Shem Tov, very often, Torah and many aspects of Yiddishkeit were reserved for the intellectual elite. If you could learn, if you could process, if you could darshan, you were in. If not, get a job. Now, by the way, getting a job is still a good idea, right? But Lamaisa, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said is 1 second. Who said that Rebbeinu Shalom could only be accessed with intellect? Who says Rebbeinu Shalom could only be accessed with Talmud Torah? Right? The Rebbe taught us that ultimately, the Rebbeinu Shalom could be accessed with a nigun, with song. The Rebbeinu Shalom could be accessed with a l'chaim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be accessed with anything and everything. So the Piagetna says, in Os Gimel, I told you kind of the things that people think. Now I'm going to tell you what the MS is. Why do people have difficulty with Machashava? It's not because of intellect. Because Machashava, God awareness, Shivis Hashem L'negdi Samid, has nothing to do with intellect. Nothing to do with intellect. What does that have to do with Rabosai? Emuna Pshuta. It is all about simple emuna in Hashem. Ella, shelo tehe emunasenu ne'el malbo, rak bechinos vehemin b'Hashem v'yachshaveh, she'echoshev be'emunachso b'machshava rechava, page 14, shebemales kol haguf. So Rabosai, here's the Piagetna. Look with this. Do you want to know what the first step in emuna pshuta is? Sorry, the first step in clarity of thought. Rabosai, first step is Emuna Pshuta. Emuna Pshuta. I will say, we speak about, again, the challenges of our contemporary Yiddishkeit. I often think about that. One of the things that we have really lost in our communities, much less in the Chassidus communities, but in our communities, is emunah pshuta. A simple emunah. I said, what's a simple emunah? You see, today, right, we're like very intellectually sophisticated, or we like to think we're intellectually sophisticated, right? So we're pondering, cogitating, analyzing, we're doing all kinds of different things, right? We're questioning God's ways. Well, I want to tell you something amazing. Like, not a day goes by, not a day goes by that someone doesn't come to me or approach me with some type of theological crisis, right? Theological crisis. So by the way, the theological crisis goes everything from, I can't believe I didn't get the job that I wanted, right? How could Hashem do this to me? The deal didn't go through. How could Hashem do this to me? My kids, marriage, different things. So I'll tell you, like, I have a different orientation with this, because as a grandchild of survivors, my grandparents, Zichron Livracha, lost everything. Never once would my grandfather, Zichron Livracha, ever ask why. Never would he ever question the ways of the Ribono Shel Olam. Now again, obviously those who lived through it and did, of course, we don't stand in judgment of anyone. I'm talking about what it means to have emunah pshuta. Emunah pshuta means, I'm in. Not I'm in if God does what I want. Not I'm in if things go my way. Not I'm in if it makes sense to me. Not I'm in if I feel... I'm in. I've told this story before. I remember when I was young, we used to spend summers, my brother, my cousins, and I, by my grandparents. My parents came to this country. They settled in Vineland, New Jersey. My grandfather was a chicken farmer in Vineland, New Jersey. And so, and we used to go there in the summers. They had like a big farm. And my grandfather used to learn Mishnayos with us in the morning. And we used to ask him questions on these. We were little kids. And whenever we'd ask him a question, he always gave the same answer. Shteit in the Torah. That's what it says. So when I was young, I thought that maybe he just didn't know the answer. Right? So it's interesting. My grandfather's family were Munkatcher Chassidim, but he was considered to be a budding Talmud Chacham. His family sent him to learn in Nervaduk. Now, for Chassidim to go to Nervaduk didn't happen. It didn't happen, especially Hungarian Chassidim. Did not happen. Did not happen. He went. He knew. He was trying to teach us a very important lesson. You don't have to understand everything in order to believe it. Sometimes in life, the best approach is shteit in the Torah. That's what it says. That's what it says. Now, I regret the fact, it saddens me that I didn't get to at the time I didn't appreciate it. I didn't understand what he was trying to do. Now, retrospectively, like often with our loved ones, we only appreciate them once they're gone. What a profound chinuch. What a profound chinuch. And the truth is, you can't teach it, you have to model it. You have to model it. That was his life. Emunah pshuta. Seeing all the terrible things, experiencing all the terrible things, but yet still being committed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was never a theological crisis. There were. The ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are hidden. The ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are often not understood. That's the way we live. We have to exist with that reality. That's what it means to be a Jew. And we just power through it. That's what we do. That's how we live. That's Am Yisrael. Says the Piazetzna. You want clarity of thought? The first step, Emunah Pshuta. Emunah Pshuta. Rabbi say, here's the litmus test. How do you feel about HaKadosh Baruch Hu when things don't go your way? How do you feel? Don't answer that. But I'm saying, like, think about it. Think about it. Right? If you have to Hashem Elokecha, b'chol levavecha, or b'chol nafshecha, b'chol levavcha, b'shnei yitzrecha. B'shnei yitzrecha, it's not just Yetzer Tov Yitzhara. Things go well, things don't go well. Things don't go well. Am I in? Am I in? Or at the end of the day, am I in when it suits my needs? But when it doesn't suit my needs, I'm not really in. And you can apply it to anything in life. Apply it to the hashkafa. You can apply it to halacha. When it works for me, I'm in. But if it doesn't work for me, it's too difficult, it's too troubling, it's too much, I'm sorry. So says the Piazetzna, without emunah pshuta, there's no clarity of thought. I will say it makes perfect sense. Because what's the clarity of thought? God awareness. What's God awareness? feeling the presence of the Ribono Shel Olam every single step you make in life. Well, it only makes sense that the only way you're going to feel that is if at the end of the day, I believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all of my heart, with all of my soul, and I'm all in. The Rebbe goes on. He says, we'll just do another line, and then we'll stop. Rebbe says, "V'lama te'adir lo li'ish Yisrael, shu b'bnei neviim min dimyon lo u'machshava zu." So I will say, so why is it, so this is incredible, so why is it that sometimes we have difficulty with Emunah Pshuta? Right? Why is it that we have such incredible difficulty? Why is that? He says, "Mipashatu mipnei shelo hishtamish va'avad bo kiroi." Rebbe say, you know why? And this sounds a little bit strange. You have to work on Emunah Pshuta as well. And I will say, now that sounds strange, because if I'm working on Emunah Pshuta, then it's not what? It's not Pashat, right? It's not Pashat, right? So I will say, isn't it incredible? But you know what? What it means to be a Jew is you have to work on everything. There's nothing. So sometimes what I don't realize is even Emunah Pshuta. I will say, no, there's a great mashal. What does it mean to work on Emunah Pshuta? So I will say, I think what it means to work on Emunah Pshuta is like this. Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tursky, tells a story. He tells her that he was once at a psychiatric conference, and he was sitting across the table from like a world-renowned psychiatrist. And it's during one of the presentations, and he sees that this psychiatrist is sitting across from him is going like this. So Rabbi Tursky writes, he says, like, for a moment I thought, like, the patients are running the asylum over here. Like, what is this guy doing? So he goes over to the psychiatrist. He's afterwards, he says, "Excuse me, can I just ask you, what's up? Right? You know, what is that?" So listen to the guy. So the guy says to him, he says, "You know, sometimes in life, I don't feel like smiling. So I've come to find that if I manipulate the corners of my mouth in an upward motion, after enough time, it sticks. After enough time, it sticks." See, Rabosai, the godless of that is, even simple things you have to work on. Even simple things you have to work on. So at the end of the day, says the Piazetzna, it's called Emunah Pshuta, but don't think that Pshuta means that it just falls into your lap and just happens. Even Emunah Pshuta you have to work on. Gam Kin Tiva. So Rabosai, by the way, pause here. How do you work on Emunah Pshuta? Think about this. So how do I cultivate Emunah Pshuta? So I will say perhaps the simplest way to cultivate Emunah Pshuta is to take a little bit of time out of each and every day and say, Ribono Shel Olam, I love you. Ribono Shel Olam, I care about you. Ribono Shel Olam, I'm wholly committed to you no matter what happens in my life. Good times, bad times, ups, downs, I'm in. And just say it. And just reiterate it. And just reinforce it. And just keep doing it the same way of manipulating the mouth in the upward way goes ahead and keeps the smile intact. So sometimes just going ahead and reiterating the principles and tenets of Emunah Pshuta allows a person to feel it. He says, "Gam kin tivo shel kol koach haguf shebeim eino mishtamshim va'ovdim bo imo yechlash." He says something amazing. He says, because if you don't work on your Emunah Pshuta, so we'll say, what happens to your Emunah Pshuta muscle if you don't work it? If you don't work it, what happens? It atrophies. It's no different than any other muscle. Right? Any other part of the body. If you don't flex it, if you don't exercise it, if you don't utilize it, it simply atrophies. If I don't use my Emunah Pshuta and I don't cultivate it and work it and bolster it, it atrophies. V'lo od, ela shekevan shegufo v'chushav hu oved v'oses srachav v'machshav t'rochan shelamalaf. By the way, it gets worse as a Piazetzna. What do you mean it gets worse? You see, if I'm not exercising my Emunah Pshuta, but at the same time, I will say there's one thing we never neglect. What's the one thing we never neglect? The guf. The guf's never going to get neglected, right? I mean, come on, right? We are not going to neglect. You understand? So you leave anything over for anyone over there? Is there anything like that? And so ultimately, again, right? We're never going to neglect it. So here, watch what happens. Look at this dynamic. So here, if I'm neglecting Emunah Pshuta, but at the same time, I'm attentive to the guf. So what am I doing? I'm strengthening the guf, not strengthening my Emunah Pshuta, which is if I'm not strengthening my Emunah Pshuta, then what's happening? It's atrophying. So I have these polar opposite forces now developing inside of me. A strengthened guf, an atrophied and weakened Emunah Pshuta. And so of course I don't have clarity of thought. Of course I can't be a Bnai Machashava Tova. He goes on, we'll stop over here for tonight. We'll stop over here. Well, the Piazetzna gives some other examples of this, I will say. But over here, so let's just summarize what we've done this evening. So, right, in last week's shir, again, just quickly, the Piagetz introduced us to the concept. You have a question? Go ahead. Please.
I'll say. So maybe it's not like you're eating more, or you're doing more for the good, but you're just, you have a Bnai, you got one Chassidus, but you're hard on yourself. Like you're just, like whatever didn't happen, you're not taking out Machashava, you're taking out yourself.
You're saying you have a Muna
Could have done more.
Pshuta. Right.
Could have done more. It's all me.
Yeah, so, and there,
Why didn't I do more?
so you're saying
Whatever happens,
about self-blame.
it's self-blame.
Yeah, so look, that's
You're not,
a different shir, my friend. Right? That is a no. You're saying good. You're saying good. By the way, self-blame. Oh, it's interesting because what we aim for in life is achrayas. Achrayas means responsibility. Responsibility is different than blame. See, responsibility, when I feel responsible, that's a constructive feeling. Blame usually is not a constructive thing. And you're absolutely right. We have to straddle, especially this time of year, this very fine line. I have to take responsibility and ownership for what I've done wrong and what's gone wrong, but to assign blame to myself often only demoralizes. Absolutely. So we'll say, so if you bring this all together, so we have the Piagetz telling us our goal is Machashava Tova. Machashava Tova, Shivis Hashem L'negdi Samid, clarity of thought. That's the ultimate goal. How do we, right? Says the Piagetz, it sounds pretty simple. Ramah said it, Lubavitcher Rebbe said it, Baal Tanya said it. Why is it so complicated? Reason number one, says the Piagetz, apathy. Reason number two, Piagetz says, is because ultimately, again, it requires intellect. Not everyone is an intellectual. The power of intellect is if you could create God awareness, even when you're not in a state of God awareness, you can still visualize what it is. Then the Piagetz does a 180. It's not intellect. Because Machashava is not intellect. Seichel is intellect. Machashava, God awareness, could be part of intellect, but could also be divorced of intellect. So at the end of the day, why is clarity of thought so complicated? Says the Piagetz, because step one in clarity of thought is Emunah Pshuta. And what's the problem? We think Emunah Pshuta is pashut, it just comes, but it's not true. Emunah Pshuta, simple faith in the Ribono Shalom, has to be cultivated, has to be grown, has to be nurtured. And the problem, says the Piagetz, is that all too often our Emunah Pshuta muscles have not been exercised. And as a result, they atrophy. Not only that, but here I'm strengthening the guf, so the guf is growing stronger, Emunah Pshuta is growing weaker, and that, says the Piagetz, at the end of the day, is why sometimes it's so hard to have this machshava tzulula, this clarity of thought, this shivisi Hashem l'negdi samid rabosei. But this is very exciting, because now the Piagetz, we just stumbled on gold. Every week is gold with the Piagetz. Now I know what I have to do. Emunah Pshuta. That's what I have to do. How we cultivate Emunah Pshuta, and for that matter, what Emunah Pshuta really means, in Meretz Hashem, next week's shir. Shkach Havosai. Those are the Emunah Shurim, yeah. Thank you.
You're a great story.